Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Pilot Principle. This is the podcast where we take a look at just the first episode of the series, the pilot, and then we use it to decide if we should watch the entire series. If you've been listening for a long time, or if this sounds like something that you might be into, then please make sure to follow, rate, and share this podcast. Now, on this episode of The Pilot Principle, we are going to be taking a look at episode 1 of BBC One's new period drama series, Miss Austen. Secrets unfold one letter at a time. Will Cassandra expose the most private details of her life, or send her sister Jane's legacy up in flames? Goodness, when was the last time we did a British terrestrial television show on this pod? Oh, do you know what? I think it was when we did the episode on the legal drama show trial. Yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a long time ago. So yeah, this is the first British drama of 2025, which is great because, you know, not everyday streaming, not everyday Netflix and Prime Video and Sky, etc., etc. Sometimes the free channels, or the free UK channels, I should say. But that's not why I wanted to watch Miss Austen. I happen to be a massive Jane Austen fan, and if you're lucky, later on in the episode, I will rank her 6 completed novels for you. Something tells me that after saying that, I've lost half my listeners. But do you know what? I'm just going to tell you right now, if you don't like period dramas or British accents or anything to do with Jane Austen, then this already isn't going to be the episode for you. For everyone else, though, let's get into it, and we are going to start by whizzing through the credits. So there is no pilot title, but the pilot synopsis tells us that years after Jane Austen's death, her sister Cassandra must retrieve her long-lost letters. We have an episode length of 52 minutes, a series length of 4 episodes, and all episodes are currently available to watch on BBC iPlayer. However, if you live in the US, then you will have to wait until the 4th of May when Miss Austen will be available on Masterpiece on PBS. The pilot episode was written by Andrea Gibb, and Gibb has written episodes of Call the Midwife and Sanditon, so, you know, it's on theme. She knows how to do a period drama. She's been in Austenland before. Gibb has also written the films Swallows and Amazons, as well as Elizabeth is Missing, which was directed by Aisling Walsh. And Aisling Walsh is the director of the pilot episode of Miss Austen. So with Walsh, her projects also include An Inspector Calls and an episode of Wallander. Moving over to cast, and we have Keely Hawes, who plays the role of Cassandra Austen. And Keely Hawes is kind of like an OG British actress. She's not quite up there, but she's rising. You know, she's been around for a very long time. She has starred in shows like Bodyguard and Scoop, but she's also starred in things like The Missing, Line of Duty, and Spooks. And, you know, so much more. Next on the selected cast list, we have Rose Leslie, who plays Isabella Fowle. And Leslie has starred in Game of Thrones, Vigil, The Good Fight, and Downton Abbey. I'm going to basically cheat. Well, it's not cheating. I'm going to play a quick 6 degree of separation game, but it's going to be so easy. So I'm just going to give you 2 seconds to think about how you would connect Keely Hawes and Rose Leslie through film and TV. Ready? Okay, time's up. Or, you know, you could have just paused. So here we go. Keely Hawes starred in The Bodyguard with Richard Madden, and Richard Madden was in Game of Thrones with Rose Leslie. I know, super quick. Although I don't think that their characters intersected. However, you can still connect them through Kit Harington, who is actually married to Rose Leslie. Yeah, I know. Right, the pilot also stars Synovi Carlson, Mirren Mack, Alfred Enoch, and Patsy Ferran, who plays a young Jane Austen. Miss Austen is based on the novel by Jill Hornby, and 2025 marks Jane Austen's 250th birthday. So I would not be surprised if this is the first of many Austen-related bits to come out in the UK. It's also 20 years since my favourite Pride and Prejudice adaptation was released. That's the one with Keira Knightley and Matthew Macfadyen. And I can already hear people in the back being like, no, 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 the BBC version with Colin Firth was much better. Okay, potato, patatas, bravas, okay? Oh, another random fact is that, as I said, Matthew Macfadyen starred in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie. And Matthew Macfadyen is, funnily enough, married to Keely Hawes, who is playing Cassandra Austen. I know, it's a teeny tiny TV world in the UK. Okie dokie. Let's get into talking about the first 10 minutes of Miss Austen. And the first 10 minutes is a pivotal part of any pilot because it should convince us to watch the rest of the episode. And the first 10 minutes of Miss Austen goes like this. We meet Cassandra, who finishes reading Persuasion before she flits around the house to do some chores. She then receives a letter that an old friend, Reverend Fowle, is dying, but is explicitly told by his daughter, Isabella, not to come to Kintbury. So Cassandra packs her trunk and heads to Kintbury in order to retrieve some personal items that she doesn't want getting into the wrong hands. Cassandra's reception at the Fowles is somewhat frosty, but she does manage to see Reverend Fowle, and he is on his deathbed and makes Cassandra promise that when he passes, his daughter, Isabella, must live with one of her sisters. Later on that night, Cassandra sneaks out of her room but is caught by the housemaid Dina before she can reach her destination and is forced to head back to her room. And that is the 10-minute mark. Now, as an intro, I want to say Persuasion is a nice touch, and it really reminds me of the beginning of, you guessed it, Joe Wright's 2005 Pride and Prejudice, because when we meet Elizabeth Bennet, she is reading a book, and apparently the book that the character Keira Knightley or whatever is reading is Pride and Prejudice, so it's a little bit meta. What I also liked about the first 10 minutes is that it really kind of sets the tone for the episode. It's sort of light and witty, and there's like almost like a cozy mystery, dinkly theme vibe to it, if that makes sense. It's giving Miss Marple, you know, old lady looking around a place that she's not supposed to be looking around, being like, oh, sorry, I just must, I can't remember why I left my room in the first place. Oh, silly me. And yeah, so it's giving that kind of tone, which I kind of like. Also, from the first 10 minutes, we really get the sense that Isabella and Dina do not want Cassandra to be there. And it feels like it's not just because the Reverend is dying. It feels like there's something else bigger going on. I will say, though, from the first 10 minutes that I was confused about how Cassandra knew Isabella and the Fowles. But you know what? That can be forgiven. I suppose it's that little bit of intrigue that will keep you watching beyond the 10-minute mark. I already feel like we're whizzing through this pilot review, but you know what? It's not a complicated show. So we're going to move over to character, and there's only one character to talk about, and that is Cassandra Austen. So Cassandra, as I said before, she's sort of reminds me of like a fun spinster. She's kind of funny, she's witty, she's that aunt that would let you drink as long as you don't tell your parents that she smoked, you know? I like her. I like Cassandra. And I think that's important because we know so much about Jane Austen, or at least the legacy of Jane Austen, that it's important for us to not watch this and think, what about Jane? What about Jane? We need to focus on Cassandra. So I think they've created a really likable character. Now, Cassandra wants to get the letters that her sister wrote to their friend, Eliza Fowle, back. However, we don't know why. We don't know what is in these letters that Cassandra doesn't want getting out. However, it feels like it's about more than the letters or the contents of these letters. It feels as though Cassandra needs to feel close to her sister again, who passed away years ago, as well as perhaps reconciling the past, because we do watch Cassandra read through the letters, which of course force her to take a trip down memory lane. And over the course of the episode, we watch as Cassandra starts questioning herself and the things that happened in her past, because of course she's reading the letters written by Jane to their friend Eliza Fowle, and so she's seeing this view of her life through somebody else's eyes. I do think over the course of the series, Cassandra might discover something she didn't know about her sister Jane, and perhaps something she didn't know about herself. And perhaps this will affect her relationships with the other people around her who are still alive and knew Jane and Cassandra when they were younger. Now, in terms of dynamics, the only person we really see, well, there's a few people that Cassandra interacts with. Firstly is, of course, Isabella Fowle, and I suppose the Fowles are old family friends of the Austens. It's very clear that Isabella does not want Cassandra there. Isabella's younger. She maybe is in her 20s, whereas Cassandra is an old spinster. So, you know, I can imagine having some random old lady come to your house and start telling you what to do would be incredibly annoying. It's like, auntie, who even asked you? Go back to your own home. Go back to your goats. I didn't ask you to come over here and start dictating my life just because my dad asked you to do some shit on his deathbed. Like, mind your business. That's the vibe I'm getting. But I wouldn't quite call Isabella an antagonist. If there was one, and that's a bit far-fetched in a show like this because it's not that, you know, black and white as good versus evil. So let's just say if there was one character that is incredibly annoying and who we would mark as an antagonist, that would be Mary Austen née Fowle. So Mary is Cassandra's sister-in-law on her brother's side, and she's also Isabella's aunt on her mum's side. And basically she's just a bit annoying. She's like, oh yeah, Jane was my sister too. Oh, I think I might try to find some of Jane's old letters. And that sparks Cassandra into finding them before Mary tries to get her hands on them. So already we're just like, why does Mary want them? Why is Mary trying to insert herself into the sisterhood of the travelling Austens? And what the bloody hell are in those letters? Okay, crew, now it's time for a quick interlude as we take a look at what I have been watching beyond the pilot principle. And of course, we'll start with what I've been reading beyond the pilot principle. So firstly, I should say this year, I think I'm not going to waste my time on books that I'm not feeling. I think I'm going to try and give it like a couple of weeks. And if I haven't read much, and I know it's about more than just me being busy, I'm just going to table the book and pick up something new to just keep the momentum going. And I preface this before I tell you that I think I'm going to give up on Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Ayimide. Now, I've only read like 100 pages. I haven't read anything more than when I last mentioned that I was reading this book. Again, a bit to do with time, but I'm funny when it comes to YA books, unless they're YA thrillers. And right now, Ace of Spades isn't thrilling. I just can't be bothered to pick it up and find out what next high school drama is going on. So I think I'm going to table it, which is probably for the best because I'm ready to start my high fantasy and sci-fi reading era. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to pick up first. I do have a couple of options, but I don't want to say anything yet in case I change my mind. And I suppose while we're on the topic of books, now's a good time for me to rank Jane Austen's books. So I'm just going to do her 6 principal finished works. And in 6th place is Mansfield Park. For me, this one is just very forgettable. I've read Mansfield Park once. And again, is this the one with Fanny Bryce? I think that might be that one. And there's a play that goes on. I just wasn't very interested in this one. In 5th place, which will be a shock to many, Sense and Sensibility. I don't know which one of the sisters it is. Is it Mariana, the younger one, who's just like, oh no, poor me, I love this guy who doesn't love me. I don't know, it's just a bit like, stop crying over men. I think that's what gets me about this book. Right, in 4th place, we have Persuasion. A nice, little, easy, cute read, I think. I like the whole like lost love, going away, coming back, reunited. Everyone thinks you're going to be a spinster and it's like, psych, married the love of my life. In 3rd place is Northanger Abbey, and this book is a hoot. I laughed so much reading this book. It's ridiculous. I think the main character, whose name I don't remember, is just trying to force a kind of gothic romance to her life, and it's just really funny. I really enjoyed this book. I need to reread it soon. Now, it was a very difficult choice between 2nd place and 1st place. These two flip back and forth for me. However, in this case, I'm going to put Emma in 2nd place. I think it's a delightful book. I really like the character. I really like the story of like the matchmaking gone wrong. Is it a bit weird that she marries this guy who's kind of like her brother, who's like 30 years older than her? Yes. But is it of the times? Also yes. And in first place is, of course, I'm a basic bitch. It's Pride and Prejudice. And as I said, Pride and Prejudice and Emma sort of interchange between that first place position. But I recently reread Pride and Prejudice, and that's why it's getting the first place slot, at least this time around. Okay, that's enough about books, I guess. Let's move on to talking about film. And I've been doing really well for myself when it comes to film. I'm really pushing myself to watch things, especially on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when I'm not doing other bits. So this week I watched The Apartment, really enjoyed. Black and white? Yeah, black and white. Was it black and white? Yeah. It was legit a whole black and white film. I'm just imagining colour, I guess. So yeah, that's an old movie about this guy who rents out his apartment to his cheating colleagues. So it's just a nice place for them to go and cheat on their wives. I watched Eyes Wide Shut, which is the old Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman movie. I didn't understand it, guys. I know people like love to find meaning behind what's in it, because I did a bit of research, because I was like, I don't get what this was, and a lot of people love it, but just no. I mean, the plot was barely there, and some good visuals and some good moments, but really, what was that? Genuinely, what was that? Then I watched Beautiful Boy, which has Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet. This was sweet and sad, and I liked the perspective of the loving father's side to his son's addiction. And oh, guys, don't do drugs. It's hard out there, you know? It's just hard to quit once you start, so just don't do it. It's not worth it. And I would say the best film I watched this week, which is a massive surprise to me, is Y Tu Mama Tambien, and that is the Alfonso Cuarón coming of age movie about two boys who go on a road trip with an older woman. I nearly switched this off after the first 20 minutes, but yeah, a great coming of age film. Okay, quickly moving over to TV land, and there's not really much going on there, to be honest. I started watching Narcos, and I've only watched like 2 or 3 episodes, and so far it's a bit mid for me. I'm just not finding it as exciting. I think I'm going to push through and get to the end of the series, because everyone's like, it's fantastic, and to be fair, I actually don't have anything else to watch, so that's fine. I'll just watch it in the evenings and see how it goes. I have continued watching Paradise, and Paradise is the new Hulu / Disney Plus drama that I reviewed on the last episode, so do make sure to check that out. And the final thing to mention in TV land is a show that I need to start, and that is The Split Barcelona. The Split is one of my favourite British dramas. It's about a family of lawyers, and the series basically finished, but they came out with an additional like 2 episode special or something like that, and they came out with this in like the beginning of January, and I still haven't watched it. I think it's one of those things where, you know, when you're really excited to get to something that you basically put it off, it's that. But I'm going to try and get to it ASAP Rocky. And yeah, that's everything to mention. If you are on Letterboxd and want to see what I rate the movies that I'm watching, then you can find me at JustJen02. If you would like to read in-depth film reviews, then you can check those out over on justjensreviews.com. And of course, be sure to let me know what you're watching or reading over on Instagram and Twitter at Pilot Principle. Okay, that's enough rambling from me. Let's get back into talking about Miss Austen. Let's break down the main story elements of Miss Austen. So I think the main thing that's going on is Cassandra is trying to find Jane's old letters to Isabella's mother, Eliza, who passed away a few years ago. However, Cassandra is not the only person who wants these letters. Her sister-in-law? Yeah. Her sister-in-law, Mary married Cassandra's brother, James. Mary also wants these letters. So the question is, what the absolute fudge cake is in these letters? What scandalous piece of information has Jane Austen written that Cassandra doesn't want anybody to get their hands on? The second storyline, I would say, is to do with Isabella. So she's clearly hiding something. I personally think it's a relationship with the doctor who tended to her father as he was on his deathbed, and her housemaid Dina is clearly in on whatever this secret is. And something else to mention, just to give a bit of context, is that while Cassandra reads Jane's letters, we do watch this unfold in real time. And by that I mean we watch a young Cassandra and a young Jane and a young Eliza and a young Mary live their young lives. So that is also being interwoven with what's happening in the present following Reverend Fowle's death. I wouldn't necessarily call this an additional storyline because it does link to the main story, which is, Cassandra finding Jane's old letters and what the hell is in them that everybody's so worried about getting out or wants to get out. So I guess we might see that play out through the events that happened in the past. Okay, now that we have all of that as a bit of context, we can talk about the end of episode Hook. So Cassandra tells Isabella that she will see her settled with her sister now that her father has passed away, because that was her father's dying wish. This, however, makes Isabella angry, and angry still because Cassandra is emphatic about the bond of sisterhood. She goes on and on about how, yes, it'll be great to see you with your sisters grieving together, and there's no better bond than sisterhood, and yada, yada, yada. But, clearly not everybody had the relationship Cassandra and Jane had. And it's very obvious that Isabella does not want to go and live with one of her dowdy sisters. Also, at the end of the episode, amongst Jane's letters to Eliza, Cassandra finds a letter from Mary, her sister-in-law, to Eliza, Mary's sister, which says that Cassandra fell to the floor in hysterics when Mary told her that her betrothed had died at sea. Now, this makes Cassandra, present-day Cassandra, very angry, and she said that didn't happen. And then we see Mary, the older present-day Mary, on her way to the house, and we are sensing some sort of confrontation is afoot between Mary and Cassandra. And from where the pilot episode began, I'm just glad that it didn't take too long for Cassandra to find the letters. So that's good, because that's the reason she set off from her home to, Kitbury in the first place. And the end of the episode clearly builds on what was started in the episode. However, I feel as though something is missing. But I will say, in terms of the pilot's positives, it's such a short series, 4 episodes, and you know what, recess is a wasting. So I'm glad that it didn't take too long for Cassandra to find the letters. Also, I will admit it was a bit dry in the present day, and so the scenes from the past added a lot of colour to the pilot episode. Those were the bits that I was especially, curled up in bed, kicking my feet at and just enjoying watching the witticisms and the lives of these young women. And I would say that if you like a period drama and you are a Jane Austen fan, then you can't really go wrong with Miss Austen. The writing is good, and the pilot sets up an interesting perspective of viewing your past through someone else's eyes. Now, on the flippity flip side, I will say it's all a bit vague. Even by the end of the episode, what the hell are in those letters? I genuinely cannot fathom. Nothing at all has been hinted at, teased, or tickled. I have no idea what's in those letters, and I feel like just a little bit of a hint would be good, because now I'm just frustrated that I haven't learned anything. Cassandra got the letters so early in the episode that I feel like it wouldn't have been remiss for us to just hint at what could possibly be in those letters that everybody wants. I say everybody, Cassandra and Mary. Also, we do have to wait for Cassandra to randomly pick up one of the letters and read it throughout the day. So we're sort of caught fragmentally between two worlds, the past and the present. So I don't think the structure was the best in this pilot. It's probably also worth noting that apparently in real life, Cassandra does burn Jane's letters. However, though there might be some bits in the series that are true, if you are watching Miss Austen to learn more about Jane's life, then firstly, rude. It's about Cassandra. And secondly, I wouldn't go writing a dissertation on what you learn in this series and citing it as facts, because a lot of it is also fictionalized. So yeah, if you're a massive academic Austen fan, you might get very irritated watching this series, and so perhaps it's best you just skippity skip. Before I move on to giving this a pilot score, I want to note that I really liked Jane Austen's character. I know, I basically just chastised you for watching Miss Austen and not thinking about Cassandra. But, you know, I've already sung her praises, okay? Just give me a second. At first, with Jane Austen's character, I thought she was a bit of a wet blanket or too much of a wallflower. However, it's very, very, very smartly done. And this isn't her story. Don't worry, I know that. It's just sort of told in her voice, and that's the part of her that needs to carry. And I think it does carry really well. And it's a really good balance because she doesn't quite outshine our poor Cassandra. Right, pilot score. Okay, no half scores for me. Okay, no, let's do it. I'm going to give this a pilot score of 3 out of 5. I was debating 2, but I think 3 is more likely deserved. I think what the pilot does really well is set things up quickly and gets the ball rolling on finding those letters and allowing us to view Cassandra and Jane and Mary's past. However, I do think it just falls slightly too far into frustrating rather than intriguing, as I was just struggling to work out what the big secret was. I was looking for hints and clues and got absolutely nothing. It was also really well written, which is what I think tips the scale up from 2 to 3. It was witty, it was charming, I laughed a few times. And overall, I would say that the pilot episode of Miss Austen was an okay watch. Thanks for joining me this week. Are you a period drama aficionado, and will you be watching Miss Austen? Make sure to follow and rate this podcast. And don't forget, you can of course chat to me over on Instagram and Twitter at Pilot Principal. And I will catch you on the next episode. Aww.